All right, Finance Committee
All right.
meeting on April the 19th at 5 o'clock. You ready, Dr. Jones? Dr. Jones.
Here.
Chair, Councilor Gwaltney.
Here.
Councilor Allamon.
Here.
Councilor Smith. Here. Councilor Harden. Here. You, all present, you got a
Oh,
quorum.
wonderful, wonderful. Thank you for joining us tonight. Let's see, you have the minutes from the April 5th meeting. Do we have a motion
So
to
moved.
dispense with the
Second.
reading and approve them as distributed? I believe that was a motion by Mr. Allamon and seconded by Mrs. Smith. Any questions, comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same sign. That passes 5-0. Minutes are approved. And let's see here. Let's start. Let's go ahead and start at the top and make our way down to the mid-year review, which is our last item tonight. But let's go ahead and see if we can take care of these other items first. 1601-15, update on past, present, and future sidewalk projects. I believe, let's see, Mr. Pugh, I don't believe we have any additional funding items for sidewalks at this time. Is that correct?
That's correct. No new funding items.
Okay. So, as you know, any kind of, get this man some water. Okay. As you know, any kind of project for the sidewalk will be handled through Public Works. So I don't think we have anything additional, and then funding will be handled here, so we don't need anything
Yes, sir.
funded. Yes, sir, Mr. Squires.
I've got a list, Lee and I have, that we had worked with Greg on, that we had a contractor working on some, and then we've got some in-house that we'll start on the 1st of May with my one crew that we do. And I'm trying to get some pricing on the one that we've got to sub that has done some work with us in the past, that I'll submit that into y'all, and once we get to it for y'all to look at. But there's quite a few, it's basically repair work on a lot of them. Yeah, it's not new sidewalks, it's repair, but we've got a list, we're starting on the 1st of May that we'll work through basically until October with our crew until leaf season starts, and I have to pull them off to go with leaf season, so. But I'll get that list to you and let you look at it, so. But it's just repairs.
Okay, thank you. And don't go anywhere.
I won't.
You know that by now. Okay, so without objection, 1601-15, we'll carry that over. And then let's go to the next item, 2504-17, request for consideration of 18th Street revitalization project. We've been carrying that over as well, but we don't have anything additional tonight, correct?
I don't personally have any updates to report. I know that,
I think I can't do it, but I think we might want to go into executive session.
Okay, that's what I was wondering if we needed to do that.
I would make a motion to go into executive session.
Second.
Okay, a move by Mrs. Smith to go into executive session.
Discussions will be
Second.
limited to the purchase or sale of real estate, the public conversation of which might have a negative impact on the value.
Okay, that's been noted. It's been seconded by Mr. Harden. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same sign. We'll be 10 minutes. Yep.
I'd like to make a motion to come out of the executive session and back into committee.
Second.
Okay, moved by Mrs. Smith to come out of executive session and into regular session, and seconded by Mr. Harden. Any questions, comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same sign. That passes 5-0. Okay, so we carried over 1601-15 for 2504-17. Is there Is there any motion for that particular item?
I would like to move to send 250417 out of committee without recommendation pending a report from Mr. Kendrick on Monday night at council.
Second.
Okay, that was moved by Mrs. Smith. That was seconded by Mr. Gwaltney.
I'm sorry, it was moved to send out without recommendation pending a report of,
From Mr. Kendrick on Monday night.
okay.
Yep. Okay, it's been properly moved and seconded. Any other questions, comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed by the same sign. Okay, that passes 5-0. That'll go to council for next week. Okay, our next item, 040321, bid opening set for tonight and we were right on time, 4:31. Isn't that right?
Absolutely.
It wasn't 4:30, it was 4:31 for Mamie L. Foster Rosedale Drive intersection improvement project. And Mr. Pugh.
I have had a chance to review the numbers on both of these bids, and would you like for me to just give you my recommendation of the one?
Yeah,
that-
provide me, we had two bids.
We had
and
two
so you
bids.
reviewed both of those, and
Yes,
what's
sir.
your recommendation for the lowest responsible and responsive bidder?
The lowest responsible and responsive bidder was Dunn Construction at $142,384, and I would recommend moving forward with them.
Okay, so the recommendation is for Dunn Construction as the lowest responsible and responsive bidder for
Yes, sir.
$142,384. And Mr. Burgett, your recommendation would be to take this out of the bond proceeds?
Yes, sir. And, now the established account number for that new line item, it's 26-11-589-145.
Okay, so I guess there are two motions. One would be to recognize Dunn as the lowest responsive bidder, $142,384. Create a line item 26-11-589-145 out of bond proceeds for funding of that project.
Did you say 2611?
2611 is what?
Yeah.
So moved.
Okay, Mr. Harden made the motion, seconded by Mrs. Smith. Okay, any questions, comments? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed by the same sign? Okay, that passes 5-0. Okay, 120321, request to authorize individual project order for Kimley Horn and Associates and provide design and construction documents for placement of sidewalk options for Mecca. As you know, we decided to carry this over, and I want to introduce Cale Smith, who is our newest employee here within engineering. So excited to have you here. And I met with him today, and I said I will not make you come up and answer any questions. You definitely have time to research this, but we had carried this over to have Mr. Smith review this, so we'll have time to do that, and the two of you can get together and we'll
Absolutely.
come back. But welcome, and you'll be dealing with Mr. Wolverton over there with Public Works, I'm sure, a lot, and with me, unfortunately. So, but look forward to working with you, and I'm so happy you're here. Sorry, Mayor, I probably stole your thunder, didn't I?
You're good.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. So with that, we're going to carry it over pending a review, and then we'll come back with a recommendation for our next meeting. That's
Yes,
okay?
sir.
Okay. Under new business, 010321, request for consideration to add a crosswalk between 232 and 336 Hall Avenue at the end of the cut through for neighborhood. This is by the school. Let's see, what was your recommendation for this?
I believe that because it's already a natural crossing point, it would simply just be adding a measure of safety to an already used point. So I would recommend that we move forward with it.
Okay, so I think looking for, this is gonna require, we're gonna handle the striping in-house.
Yes, sir.
And then the remainder, we've got to put in ADA ramps to make it
That's
ADA
right.
compliant. And the recommendations for up to $4,000?
Oh, yes, sir. Yes,
To be able
sir.
to handle that?
Up to $4,000 for that.
Mr. Burgett, did you get line item for that?
Yes, sir, that come out of our sidewalk repairs, be 12-12-581733.
Okay. And
No, it's 1211, I'm sorry. Can't remember.
1211? Is that correct?
Yes.
1211-581733. Okay, so the recommendation is to handle that expenditure up to $4,000 out of that, out of said line item.
That's
Is there-
correct.
is there a motion?
So moved.
Okay, moved by Mrs. Smith, seconded by Mr. Alaman for that funding. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same sign. Okay, that's 5-0, passing.
Dr. Jones, before we get in the mid-year review, can I ask one question? On the 18th Street revitalization 250417 that y'all are sending out with that recommendation, did you also want that to stay carried over here for further action, or is there going to be?
Yes, ma'am, we'll carry that over here as well.
Okay, just needed to know,
Carry it.
sorry.
I'm glad you mentioned that, yeah, because we will, we're not finished with that project, I'm afraid.
Okay.
So we'll have to keep that here and then send that out to council.
Thank you.
Okay, Mayor, 010421, request to consider mid-year review for 2021 per fiscal policy. And I wanted the mayor to kind of open up some comments on this. We want to be completely synchronized with the mayor's office and be in full support. So I'll let you open up the discussion.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And yes, I agree with you 100%. And I will say that, of course, based off the fiscal policy that we adopted years ago, this was something that is very important, that we have this mid-year review and give ourselves kind of a look, especially in a year like we've been through so far, starting off with COVID, whereas last year we didn't quite start off with it, we ended with it. So we want to make sure that everybody has an idea of where we are financially as a city. And I will say that Robert and Melody and their teams have worked extremely hard over the past few weeks to be able to give you guys good numbers that are sitting in front of you. So I've asked them tonight to give you kind of a high-level view of things, and then President Wyatt and I have discussed, and Chairman Jones, about either doing an extended time for a finance meeting or doing a committee of a whole, one of the two, to kind of go a little bit more in depth. So, you know, tonight's is not going to be as deep as we will get to it, but we certainly wanted to start it off tonight based off that fiscal policy. So, but I appreciate, again, everything that Robert and Melody and your teams, you guys have done a great job, so thank y'all.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Mr. Burgett, you want to start the review?
Are there copies for everyone, or is it just the finance committee?
Yeah, I handed out to the finance committee, two
Robert, can you turn on your mic? I got it, thank you.
Okay. I provided to the Finance Committee two packets that we'll briefly discuss, and as Mr. Jones and the Mayor said, we'll go into greater depth at a call meeting. On the first packet, which shows the accounts, shows our revenue and expense items, if you'll notice that year to date, period over period, last year versus this year, the revenue is almost equal. We're slightly higher on our revenue compared to last year, but last year's numbers were down. So revenue is being consistent with last year, but it is not improving greatly. If in the next column you look at expenditures, our expenditures are almost identical to last year, same period. And this is with, even with the mayor's instituting emergency funding, a great deal of this expense is coming from items that really are hard to control, such as the fixed costs with employees and the personnel side, insurance. It's where a lot of the expense items are coming from. So, and there's some other items in there that gives a breakdown on the different line items of revenue. Sales tax is the only bright spot that we have. Most line items are equal or down, and we're thankful that sales tax is 7% above budget at this time. and it's floating the whole city right now to keep us from being in the red. The other packet is a little breakdown that Melanie and I have put together. We did it a little different this year because we wanted to really compare apples to apples. We gave the total revenue for the general fund on the first line, and that includes our transfers. We have a 1 cent BOE, 1 cent of our sales tax goes to the Board of Education. We have a transfer to our debt service, and those are items that actually do not provide operating revenue for the general fund. So we broke it out to where we are providing the general fund operating revenue and the transfers. You can see the items there. And if you will notice, if you'll go back, basically the operating revenue as general fund is increasing every year. It's increasing approximately on an average of about $2 million. That's going to present a problem, especially when we're having declining revenues as we've had last year and so far this year. The thing to notice is that our preliminary audit findings are that we finished last year with a $65,470 surplus after paying $312,000 in employee bonuses. But that is only because we had $856,000 of the CARES Act money that came into the city, or we would have finished with a deficit last year. Also, I want to point out that in 4 of the last 5 years, we've transferred $3.2 million out of the general fund to capital projects, to fund our capital projects. We did not transfer money the past year, so our capital projects fund has not had the luxury of having this additional revenue transferred in from the general fund for our projects and our vehicles and capital expenses.
So, Robert, can I ask a question?
Yes,
John
sir.
Harden. Does that mean that really it was a $4 million difference? If we had 3.2, we typically would have sent to capital projects, and then the other, what sounded like almost $700,000-800,000. Like maybe that was 856.
Yes, sir.
We're
If you
talking
look,
$4 million difference.
I wouldn't call it $4 million because that was, the 3.2 million was over a 5-year period. It's
Okay.
about $1 million.
Okay.
The last 3 years, we've transferred $1 million out of general fund
I
to
thought you were
capital.
talking about $3
So you're
million.
looking about a $1.8 million swing in that item. And that has an impact too on our capital expenditures spending. The next page is just a graph of the general fund revenues. You can see how the last 2 years are basically flat, where the operating revenues of general fund have been at $37.5 and $37 million for the last 2 years. And that includes the $856,000 in CARES Act money. The next page is a graph of expenditures, and you can see how our expenditures are increasing over the last 5 years. Even the last fiscal year compared to 2019, they've grown about considerably from 36.9 to 38.3 million, even though the revenues have stayed flat. The next graph actually shows that for the first time since I've been here and in the last 5 years, our expenditures exceeded our revenue, and that was in the last fiscal year. The red line is showing our operating expenditures and how they're growing. Revenue has been consistent with that, which has always kept the city in a good, sound fiscal place. But with the COVID and the decrease in revenues last year, that's the first time we've expenditures exceeded revenues. The next chart is just a breakdown of our ad valorem property tax, which we were slow getting property tax in this year, but by the end of March, we had pulled to our budget, and I got one payment early of this month, which actually we will make our budget on our property tax, and it's a slight increase, a 2% increase over last year's number. There's a graph on the ad valorem. Then there's a breakdown on sales tax analysis. It talks about the money that we, that we get in, that we provide to our general fund, our, the 1 cent transfer to the Board of Education, and then the quarter of 1 cent that we provide to funding for our capital projects fund. And it, although it is increasing, it still leaves us needing more funding in capital projects to fund all the different programs that we have on the books right now. Breakdown on sales tax analysis. Sales tax is the bright spot. I would say the city's still being carried by the top 5, if not the top 10 sales tax payers in the city. They are having phenomenal years, but some of the smaller businesses, looking back at some averages, some of the smaller businesses are not contributing as much sales tax as they had in prior years. We are up approximately 7% on sales tax year over year, which that's the bright spot. But there's many line items that are underperforming as far as revenue. And of course, we raised sales tax to the 4 cents to fund our debt payments on the bond issue. We did that in January of 17. You can see the spike in the sales tax there. And this was the first year, fiscal year ending in 20 was the first fiscal year where actually sales tax had declined. But we are running even with last year, but still behind the fiscal year 18 and 19. Any questions, sir?
Yeah, is that it? That's a great high-level overview. One thing, Mr. Harden, I'll address, that we have been wanting to look at this, but you know, the way we're structured for our capital fund is the revenues for capital are only 0.25% of the sales tax, and so we're always low on that. So we've always transferred, and I said maybe, you know, one of these years we're going to look at changing the structure of where those funds go, because we've had so many capital project requests, and they're going to continue to increase. So that might be something to look at, but that's certainly part of it. But I would say with the importance of the mid-year review this year, I've asked our president if he would maybe call a special called meeting so that we can go into more detail on some of these numbers.
Yeah, and so what I think we'll do is that we'll have a committee of the whole meeting. I don't think we've had one of those with this council. Basically what that means is we all get together in a committee meeting setting, but as a whole body. And I don't have a date for that, but we'll set it next Monday night and pick a date here in the...
Well, is there a way we can set it for Monday? Because this has to be passed this has to be approved in April.
Well,
is that correct, or is that?
There's not a transfer that we have to make like we do when we go over the audit.
Right.
It's just a report, which we've given you,
Okay.
basically the report.
Yeah.
The
My thought
audit's
was
when we
that
have
y'all
to-
could go ahead and accept the report, and then we could have a longer discussion on the various projects.
Perfect.
Okay.
That works for me.
And Dr.
Okay.
Jones, can I just say one thing related to, just since we have some new people on the council, but this was actually before I came, but the way I understood it at one time too was like in 2007, that the capital used to get 50 cents of the 2 cents that we kept of the original 3, you know, we give a cent to the penny to the school, but they moved, I think in 07 to give a COLA to the employees that year, because there have been so many years that we hadn't been able to give COLA, but that's why we've never been able to put that quarter back. So I was just letting them know, historically, it used to be 1.5 to the general fund and 0.5 to capital of the 2 that the city keeps of the original 3.
That's right. That's
But
right.
in 2007, they gave a COLA, and just like you always know, whenever you pick up an expense and take something, you can't seem to ever put it back. So, but I was just letting y'all know the history of that at one time it was 50 cents to capital. But that's one of the reasons why we run short in that, because they did take that quarter.
Yeah, I was trying to remember a time that we didn't transfer to capital, and it's I couldn't recall a year that we didn't need.
I think it was 07. I think it was 07. I know JJ was on the council because I fussed at him about it. We were trying to. Is he in here?
Is that right, JJ? Yes. All right, good. We confirm it with you. I was on the council then too. Okay. Okay, so with that, is there a motion to accept the report? And then we understand that obviously we're going to have a committee of the whole to go in more detail on this, but is there a motion to
So moved.
accept the report?
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Smith, second by Mr. Harden. And then we'll get you all of this great detail. And then I have several questions, but I'll ask them when we get into that session. Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Gwaltney. Mrs. Smith.
I'm getting
Second by-
credit for a lot of things tonight.
Well, look at you and you nodded your head, so, thank you. Moved and seconded, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same sign, 5-0. That's passed. Anything on the table that we need to handle tonight? If not, we're adjourned.